Thank you very much, Adrian Seed. Okay, can I just have my speakers, panelists with me as well? Come. You think you're going to sit there? I don't, however, Adrian, like the way you read the title. Bootstrapped but bankable. What do you mean? Are you insinuating that if you bootstrap, your chances are not bankable, but we're talking about but bankable here? But it is a question which is legit. And this is essentially a founder's conversation. Well, with the exception of you, but you're running it, so you're like a founder too. So, Michael, we will just need to verify some of the things, but otherwise, this conversation is also yours. So please Slido yourself in. All right. So to start off, I just want a little context. Drink water. The context that we need to set first is how much are we talking about when we say bootstrap? How long did the money last? And what is the size of your company now? Go, Fred. I think you should be all switched on. Yes.
Hi, everyone. I'm Fred Chong from WebTVAsia. I started WebTVAsia about 5 years ago. At the time, my company has about 6 person. And me and my private investor, right, we invested about 2 million.
2 million.
The goal at the time was to grow 100 times. So today we had about 320 staff in 10 different countries. So, but I used up the 2 million maybe on my first year.
In your first year? Well done. Okay, very good.
First couple of years.
How many cars is that?
So yeah, and then of course we started with one YouTube channel, and then now we have about 2,500.
Okay,
so.
I get it. I get the size. Thank you, Fred. That was huge. All right, Chan, you want to tell me about Exabytes?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Chan, a founder and CEO of Exabytes. So I started Exabytes 18 years ago.
When I was a girl.
With a credit card I borrowed from my cousin back then. You know, borrowed to swap at $29 so that I can start a US reseller account. So that's how I actually started my business, and almost bootstrapping since day one.
So when you bootstrap, does that mean also because it's so personal to you, and I have read some of your stories?
So basically until today we don't have any institutional funding. Today.
So do people work for you still?
Sorry?
Do people still work for you when there's no funding?
Yeah, I think every, on and off, So, yeah, today we serve about 100,000 SME customers, paying customers. And our business span across like cloud services, e-commerce, and also delivery. Yeah.
Okay. So let's hear from you. Photobook, size, how much? I'm sure you can tell us a little bit about how the founder himself bootstrapped.
Sure.
At the beginning.
So I'm not the founder. The founder founded it in 2005, so 13 years ago. So these are numbers from him. He might have lied about it to attract me to Photobook, so I'm not sure. But
well, at least
he started it with like 4 to 5 people, about $1 million ringgit.
How long did that last?
Well, more than 80% of that money actually went into our first printer, which was then installed in his living room, and he took up the entire living room. So he obviously had very understanding parents as well. And today we have about 250 people, 4 offices in Manila, Toronto, Melbourne, KL. And yeah, we're doing about 2.5 million orders a year.
Today. And that was from then was 18 years ago? 13 years ago. Sorry, I was like mixing up that. Okay, so can we talk a little bit about if you get to do it again, perhaps both from Fred as well as from Chan. If you get to do it again, would you still bootstrap? Let's see if that's a resounding yes or no. Would you still do it? Would you still do the same thing? Or what change would you make?
Sorry, I don't think I'd be able to do it again because of timing. So, end of the day, we had sort of like early mover advantage. So if I were to do it again, I would have done something else.
Done something else, like completely different. But what I'm trying to say is, if you get to rewind and go back with your same decision of bootstrapping, is there anything that you would like to change or that is giving you so much advantage because you were bootstrapping? Because you were your own boss?
Yeah, it's very important because, we work at internet speed today. So if you need decisions from so many different levels and so many different investors and parties, right, you won't be able to take advantage of, like I said, the timing and the opportunity that I saw about five years ago. So yeah, I would still, bootstrap if,
You believe in the idea of bootstrapping?
I believe in the idea of founders, being able to be his own boss and make those kind of crucial decisions. Yes.
So how much decisions are we taking away from founders when we involve investors? Mr. Michael.
So I guess I'm the odd guy in the panel. So I would say as a VC, you don't take away decisions from the founders.
Okay.
The reason why we invest in companies is because we believe in how the founders work, how they execute, how they manage their team. But there is an added value that we provide as a VC, not only us, but kind of all the VCs in the region. You want to be an added value partner. And I know that's sort of a catchphrase that everyone uses, but if you look at, beyond just giving money, it's expertise, it's network, it's help with fundraising, it's help with recruiting. It's a lot more than just writing a check into a company. So in that sense, it is not taking away decisions, but it's really helping the founder grow its company.
Are you raising fund right now, Photobook, or planning to? And if yes, why? If no, why?
Yes. The answer is yes. Why? I think that there is never a right or wrong answer, right? I think that we can always look back and say, what is the path not taken? I mean, to your earlier question, I think if I asked Mark whether he would prefer to bootstrap again or to take funding early on, I think the answer would be he would take funding, because I think that the ambition that we see today is much larger than his ambition when he first founded the business. I think when he first founded the business, we were celebrating 1 order a day, right? Sometimes on some days now, we do 10,000 orders a day and we're not very happy about it, right? So we're human beings. By nature, we are greedy. And the only way we can sustain that greed is to go bigger, right? So I think at some point, you get to a certain ambition and you say, hey, maybe to achieve this ambition that I have, I will need outside funding.
Do you agree, Jonn?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think different stages of life and also business, you make different decisions. And today, the landscape is totally different compared to 13 years ago or even like 18 years ago. So,
Are you fundraising?
Yes, the quick answer is yes. Yeah.
How are you fundraising?
Not much different like the rest of the startup company out there. But the fundraising is for different purposes. I think a lot of startups to fundraise so that to expand or to grow the market. So for us, one of the things we want to do is consolidate the market. So it's a different purpose of fundraising.
And how do you view a bootstrap company, for example, for an investor? How does it affect your decision to invest in them? Do they look more sexy because they bootstrap, or do they not? Do they look like very difficult founders because they've never worked with other investors before? So how do you see them?
So there's a few ways of looking at it. So one, if you look at a bootstrapped company, it's always commendable that a founder and his team work without external financing. And I always said, and I've said since forever, VC is not for every single founder. Some companies thrive without having any outside money, and some companies don't. The way we look at bootstrapped companies is, they've been able to build something on their own, again, without external financing. That's a trait which is very, very difficult. You have to make different choices. If you have less money, you have to be really careful with runway. You have to be a bit more conservative in terms of capital. So in that sense, it's actually a good sign when founders said, we've bootstrapped up until now. We've built this up until this far, and we're now ready to grow the company and scale it much faster. And hence, we're looking for VC funding. So for us, it's not that the founders are more difficult. They tend to be a bit more conservative when it comes to capital, which is fine. And it's actually a trait that we are also looking for in founders. So I would say it's a good thing if a bootstrap company decides to raise capital from a VC.
Let's find out if Fred is conservative. But before that, I am going to have the team at the back to switch on the Slido questions for me so that I could have a look. I'm trying to do it on my phone too, so anytime you're ready. So if you do have questions, please feel free so that I could just read it off the screen. Okay. Meanwhile, Fred, for you, challenges, bootstrapping, what are they?
I mean, for my case, right, I bootstrapped it when I had like 6 people in my company, and I think the definition of bootstrap, right, it's that period, right, it's critical because it's about proof of concept. You know, you want to do something and you want to prove that the model work. And for my case, right, what happened is that WebTVAsia is like a multi-channel network and a media company. So what happened at the time, right, is I have one channel in Malaysia, a YouTube channel that I manage, which I've never made any money before because at the time there was no monetization model. So I had one channel and I signed a partnership deal with YouTube. And I launched a video that went viral. And that month, I received $1,000 check from Google. To me, someone who's never made any money on internet, because internet at the time, like social media, was just about a promotion platform for us. So we've never made any money. So that month, you know, getting that $1,000, right, USD, was a big, what do you call that?
Motivation.
Wow, aha moment, whatever you call it.
Enlightenment.
So I thought, if I could make $1,000 with one channel, right, can I do 100 channels and make $100,000 from it? So that was the whole proof of concept that I wanted to do. That's how I had that. I put in that money to start. Within 1 year, I got 1,000 channel. 100 channels. So the proof of concept was achieved. But then I realized there's actually a bigger play in this ecosystem that I wanted to do. So we call ourselves, at the time, I'm actually 13, my company is actually 13 years. We were like a traditional media company before we became like an internet company. So we rebrand ourselves from Prodigy, we call it WebTVAsia because we want to go out of Malaysia. So the good thing about Bootstrap and you don't need permission from anyone to go and penetrate the market. So we were very lucky because internet. So we were riding on the so-called digital superhighway. So I don't need permission. If you're on a traditional company, just to do business in a foreign land, right, you would go through almost hell just to get your registration or permission from the government to actually do business. But because it's the internet, we penetrated China very easily and without the Great Wall of China, but we did that. And then, of course, Thailand, and then Taiwan and Vietnam, and so forth. So to me, it's like bootstrapping became, there was one point that we decided in order to play a bigger league in the game, right? Because as a media company, as a content company, that's where we decided maybe we have to forego the bootstrapping mentality and actually go bigger and go faster, and also, probably need to invest a little bit more. So that was about 2 years ago. So our real growth was actually right after we decided, okay, we have proven the concept that this business model worked. Now, how to take it beyond that? So that everything changed over the last 2 years. That's when 100 channels became 2,500 channels. So does that answer your question?
But in the last 2 years, did you consider fundraising?
I did. I mean, only this year that we decided, because, see, I talk about early mover advantage, right? Is because the bigger boys, the bigger media companies, the bigger internet companies weren't really looking at Southeast Asia digital media space. So, but I felt like, these bigger players are now coming into Southeast Asia. And that's when I thought, okay, if I were to play the game right, I will need to stock up a little bit more bullets in the bank account. So that's when I decided, I will start talking to VCs and potential partners or strategic partners. So this year, yes.
And what are they open to your ideas, or
No,
do they
not
still
really.
think that your idea is pretty novel and new?
You see, I saw the slide just now of how, there's so much money in Southeast Asia, there's so much fun coming in, right? Not really, guys. I mean, if you are a bootstrapper, if you are like a startup, right, those are not for you. Those are for the unicorn, the proven ones. They will say, if you got 100 million revenue, yes, we want to invest in you. And then right after they invest in you, they're looking for the exit, and then they take the money out of Southeast Asia. So not for us, unfortunately. So if you are here to learn about startup, right, unfortunately, your time hasn't come yet. So I'm one of them.
Okay, so let's hear from Mike a little bit. Do you want to rebut what Fred has to say, or you are completely fine with what he has to say about how
no,
you guys...
I'm not actually. So I think one for every single VC fund, we have a 10-year life cycle. So we don't put in the money and put it right out. That's just not true. The way VCs invest is long term. And we are former entrepreneurs. I built my business 15 years ago. So we understand how long it takes to build a business. And it's not overnight. It takes at least 7, 8, 9, 10, 13 years to build a proper business. So, of course, we have a 10-year life cycle. So we hope within those 10 years that we are able to, generate an exit. But I always compare having a VC on board as a marriage. Being single is great. Being married is great as well. It's not one or the other. Okay, some people say being single is better. But in a marriage, you kind of set expectations. And expectations are the same things you do as you invest in a company. So for me, it's more about setting those expectations early on,
Right.
which kind of helps that partnership.
Right.
But I generally believe that sort of as long as you have the same goal, the same target, and the same strategy, you'll be fine having a VC on board.
Okay, so we have like about 8 more minutes. Let's have a quick look at the board. Will evaluation of the business make any difference if it is bootstrapped? So I'll ask that to Michael. Do you think, has it got any difference, evaluation, in terms of the evaluation of the business? If it's bootstrap versus fundraise all the way, so is there a difference? Does it look better? Is it more bankable?
I think I probably need to clarify that. If you're a startup looking for $10,000, yes, there's a lot of VCs. But if you have proven and you're in the stage where you need to grow bigger and need scale and need the tens of millions, right? Then no, it's not available for you. But if you're in a business where you already have 100 million revenue and you need 100 million, yes, you can. So, it's a sticky situation where you're stuck in between that. I saw some graph that says that, 80% of the VC money going in, right, are only going on the unicorn. And I think there's a group of friends that are running that part of that business, which we have no access to, unfortunately.
Right. Okay, I understand that. Do you want to take on this question?
Yeah, sure.
That was a rebut to what you're saying, unless you want to rebut again to what he's saying.
Yeah, so I'll answer the question first. So on the question, I would say there is not a big difference. It's always about risk and reward. So the risk and the reward you put in terms of bootstrap means that you have, you put in your own money, you've used your revenue to fuel growth. For a company which is VC-backed, they've used external money to fuel their growth. We look at risk reward. So how much have you been able to grow as a business, either it's bootstrapped or VC-backed? Doesn't make the biggest difference.
Right.
The biggest difference is how fast are you able to grow as a company. And to your point where you talked about there's 80% of the VC money goes to unicorns, that kind of makes sense if you talk about the bigger amounts. If you talk about there's $9 billion in venture money into the region, of course $6 billion will go to the largest companies. That's still $3 billion left over for early stage companies. So I totally disagree with your point.
Okay, and this war will continue. But meanwhile, Chan, can I just find out, I think there was one question. Is there a correlation of bootstrapping to you or to founders with no exit plans in mind? That means when you bootstrap, it means that chances of you exiting is next to zero because that's your baby.
Sorry, I'm actually here to raise money. So I like to be friends with a lot of VCs. So I'm not here to step on anybody's shoes. So
no, of course not. Don't worry, we're just kidding. We have good sense of humor. Don't worry, Fred. We still love you. Okay, Chan, tell us.
Fair enough, yeah. Okay, so I think the day one you started a business and you already think about exit, I think there's something wrong, right? You don't start a business for exit tomorrow, right? So that's number one. Number two is you want to be entrepreneur. You don't want to be a funnelpreneur. Funnelpreneur is someone, full-time choices go out and raise fund, right? So you are not supposed to be that way. You only raise funds when your business, you reach certain skill and you want to accelerate that. You want to grow, 10x. Then that's where you go and raise additional bullets and weapons and whatever so that you can fight a better, wars, yeah. So there's no direct correlations.
And perhaps you can answer the other question that was asked. How do we manage Bootstrap to ensure its success?
Yeah, I think first of all, there's a misconception that I think bootstrapping is by choice. It's not always by choice, right? I mean, sometimes no one wants to invest in you. So what you have to do, right? You just got to bootstrap your way through it. So I think for most people who bootstrap, a lot of them are also, well, there's two categories. Right? One, they're successful enough that they don't need outside money. So profitable from very early on. The second one are maybe businesses that are not very sexy, right? They're not sexy enough to attract good investment into the company, and therefore they have to bootstrap their way along. And understanding that, then you kind of understand the corresponding behavior, right, of how you actually manage a bootstrapping business, right? So I think there's a real difference here. And of course, when you're bootstrapping, you're of course, you're going to pinch pennies, and you're going to be doing it very differently compared to the other companies. So I think that is where we have to find balance. The balance between, really feeling every penny that goes out and really seeing the bigger picture here. I mean, just to give you an example, we never used like headhunters until up to 2 years ago. And of course, you ask a bootstrap business, generally they don't use headhunters,
Absolutely.
right? Super expensive, not always the best, right? But we realized that that's not the right thing to do, right? Because actually it really helps accelerate business. So we started to use headhunters before, nowadays, right? And if you ask the VC fund, the first thing that they will do when they sometimes give you money is, hey, you should consider using headhunter because it will accelerate your growth and your expansion. So I think that's really the biggest difference, I think, between bootstrapping and not bootstrapping. So what I'm trying to say is that you don't always need to behave like a bootstrapping business just because you're bootstrapped. Like, we are bootstrapped, but we can hire headhunters too, right? So I think that it is all about the mindset. How do you think? How big is your ambition? And fundamentally, if your ambition is big, there should be no difference between a bootstrap business and not a bootstrap business.
Okay, I like that point. Fred, I think there was a demand to ask, Fred, how did you get the initial 2 million to
Okay,
start?
like I said, right, I started WebTVAsia about 5 years ago, but before that, right, we were on the traditional media, so by then, right, I produced my first film. I actually a filmmaker as well. I produced my first film at the time. It's called Nasi Lemak 2.0. So it went and it broke the national box office record. So I got back some money. I got back some profit. But if I work it out right, because of the size of Malaysia as the market in the media industry or the content industry, we were number one, and the money that I got back right doesn't even, we made a profit, but I would have made more money selling Nasi Lemak #1 rather than a #1 film. So that made me realize, right, Malaysia as a content and media market, right, is not big enough. That's when I decided we have to if there's any opportunity, if I have to grow, I have to go out of Malaysia. So to answer that question, right, I actually invested that money, myself and my partner, to actually did that.
Wow.
So-
Okay. So perhaps it's a choice, perhaps it's not a choice, or perhaps you choose to try something completely.
You have to go out. I mean,
You have to do what you have to do.
I mean, look at the box office now in Malaysia. I mean, that's what WebTVAsia is about. Actually, if you're American VC or British Europe, right? You talk about, wow, big opportunity in Southeast Asia, big opportunity in Asia. But for your information, Asia is not one country. Asia is so segmented that, as soon as you drive across Thailand and Singapore, it's a completely different world. So for a media company to target a regional presence is actually a lot of work because we don't talk to each other. I mean, different language, different culture, everything is different. So that makes, Asia a lot more harder. But that's my goal as WebTVAsia. How can we unite Asia in terms of the media space? Nobody has done it yet. So, we're hoping that we'll work harder to achieve that.
Yay, we look forward to. Okay, I have a minute plus left. So one last from around the table. So we'll start with Michael.
Yeah, I think
maybe we just want to comment on.
We might have
yeah.
disagreed earlier, but one extremely important point I want to make. So investing your own capital into your startup is the most commendable thing you can do as a founder. That kind of shows you have vested interest into your own company.
Skin in the game.
A skin in the game, and as a sign for us as investors to invest in the business, it's one of the most important things.
Can I give you my name card later? Okay.
Bank account.
Okay, Regin, you want to add?
I think bootstrapping or not, I think the more important point to me is that we try and make the economics work, right? And basically what that means is that make sure the unit economics work and general economics work. I mean, of course, Photobook is fortunate enough that we never made a year of losses in 13 years of operations.
Wow.
And we've never declared a dividend as well, which means we plow back, a couple hundred million ringgit into the business over time. But the result of that is really because we are able to make the unit economics work from day one. And that's super important. And it doesn't matter whether you're bootstrapped or not bootstrapped, you should always try and make your unit economics work.
Thank you very much.
Can I say one more thing?
Can we let Chan go first, only you? Then you have the last
Okay,
say.
it's
Okay, Chan.
Right. So I think you don't start a startup because you want to raise funding, right? You get funding because of you want to grow.
Right. Okay. I appreciate that. All right, Fred.
No, I'm just sharing my experience. You know, I know there's a lot of Malaysian startup and Malaysian entrepreneurs. I just want to share that, as a Malaysian startup, right, you actually have a lot more, value if you want to embark on your journey to go across Southeast Asia, because Malaysians are very multilingual. You know, we're cultural savvy. You know, make use of that advantage that you have. If you want to go to Thailand, Indonesia, Vietnam, you can do it, and you would do it much better than all the other startups across the region. So make use of that. The biggest success. I mean, if someday I'm successful, like, this is the biggest contribution to my success by being a multilingual Malaysian that able to do it fast and do it boldly. Thank you.
Should I give you like a 10-second to talk about your new film?
Oh, okay.
Do you want that 10 second?
I'm really inspired as a Malaysian. I'm really inspired by what has happened to changing and the new beginning of Malaysia. So I'm actually because of WebTVAsia, I haven't produced a film for the last 5 years, but I am producing a new film. It's called Ini Kalila, and and it's inspired by how the lives of Malaysians are changed on that fateful day. So, I'm hoping, we're shooting right now, and I'm hoping that it will be launched on Malaysia Day. So, yeah, stay tuned. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, my panelists. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we say thank you to our panelist speakers, and a nice warm round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, to the very, very, very bankable Leow, Ngai Yuen,